Rolex will not touch your watch for various reasons.
And this right here is the perfect candidate for a meltable watch. Unfortunately, there's no saving this. Ladies and gents, welcome back to the YouTube channel. Don't forget, if you are looking to buy or sell a timepiece, or better yet, have your watch worked on by me, fully overhauled, and get it back to factory specs, feel free to reach right out, give me a call, give me a text, head right over to the website, and I'll see what I could do. Now, this is a restoration that even Rolex themselves did not want to take on. That's right, the manufacturer of this timepiece said we are not servicing it, and I'll touch on that a little bit later on in this video, but there was a ton wrong, and this is what I always talk about. Cheap watches come with expensive problems. Now, I managed to lose every single clip of me disassembling this timepiece, so we're jumping straight into the cleaning portion. Yes, it's a lot less glamorous, but this is a crucial step when working on a timepiece. Now, this is sitting in a solution, and every single component to this watch needs to be cleaned in full detail by hand. Now, this is just a solution of 99% alcohol. I'm using a piece of pegwood, and I'm pegging all of the pivot holes. There's a ton of just dried up and caked up oil, and that's pretty much apparent on every single piece in this movement. Now, this is one of those things. It's very tedious, it's very time consuming, but it needs to be done. Now, just look at this dried up, caked up oil. It's pretty much etched itself and left some remnants on the top coat of this metal jumper here. Now, this is something, unfortunately, it would need to be sanded out or refinished out. So we're just going to keep on going along with the cleaning. Now, all the keyless works components, all the motion works, we want to eliminate any remnants of debris before we throw it through the cleaning machine. Now, this center seconds wheel here had a ton of rust on it. I don't know how the hell this happens, but it did. So I had to clean this once again by hand, and now it's a fully functioning working part. Whenever you're cleaning wheels, this is very, very crucial. Use like a jeweler's block. You have pivots on both sides of the wheel, find the hole that fits, and you could clean this without running the risk of actually bending this wheel. We have very high tolerances within a watch movement, so we want to make sure that everything stays true, including all of these wheels. Now, a skate wheel, it's a very small, very brittle component here. So I'm doing the same thing. I put the pivot into the jeweler's block. Now I can get the face of all of the teeth. I can make sure I'm removing all the oil that was on there previously. And it's a lot easier. You can really apply some pressure here. You don't have to worry about it bending or going out of shape. We could flip it over, and now you can hit both sides of the wheel. Now we're ensuring we're getting 100% cleaning capabilities. Then we could dust this off and check out the work. Ideally, after everything has been cleaned by hand, I will check each and every component under the microscope to make sure that we have perfect functioning parts and everything can be utilized back in this movement. But this right here is one of my favorite parts when cleaning a movement. Sounds crazy, but these barrels, they collect so much junk over the years. The grease, the oil, everything just breaks down and it leaves behind this sludge both on the lid as well as the inner barrel walls. I don't know why I enjoy cleaning these so much. Maybe it's because it's such a transformation when they shine and all that grease and gummed up just junk is gone and out of there. But this is also very crucial. You want to make sure that your barrel is 100% clean. Now, I wasn't kidding when I said this watch has not been serviced in quite some time. Take a look at these reversing wheels. I mean, come on. I don't know about that. I know a lot of people like to say that these watches are watertight, this, that, but I've seen way worse. Dust and debris will find its way into your watch. I don't know how. I genuinely don't. So please don't ask me a question. A lot of people do. But we're going to clean each and every component from this automatic module here. And it's pretty dirty. I mean, you guys see all the dirt? You see the junk here? This one's pretty bad. Even the inside of the rotor, it has some like pitting and oxidation. I don't really know how, but the 2030 caliber, apparently it just likes to kill itself. And as you can see here on this main plate, we have lost a significant amount of this rhodium plating. Yes, Rolex rhodium plates all of their brass components. That's why they're shiny. That's why they're nice and clean. But this is also because, someone was cleaning this watch maybe by hand before. They're rubbing on it. I see a lot of scratches. I see a lot of bad work here. But it happens. Capsules. These are another crucial component in a timepiece. Now, you guys can see here, I'm collecting the light. This is an easy way to tell which is the top and bottom side of your capsule. So now I have to clean these by hand, peg them. You have to be very careful. These things will just fly away. And then we can finally dump them into something called epilum. Now, epilum is a solution utilized in some parts that are going to be holding oil, such as capsules. We put this in there, it basically coats all of these parts and it stays around for quite some time. I believe it can go through a few different wash cycles and then it'll still be there. Now, the capsule, I'm going to put it back together. You guys saw the lighting part there. Put the bottom side of this capsule on, and then we could go ahead, grab the automatic oiler. This is some 9010, as this is for the upper or lower portion of the balance wheel. So we're just going to put in a perfect amount of oil. Love using automatic oilers for this reason. But now the real cleaning begins. Okay, I did all the heavy lifting. Now I get to throw it in this nice fancy $4,000 machine. I don't know. Basically, I am the machine at the end of the day, but this still makes all the parts a lot shinier, a lot cleaner, and it basically just gets out anything that I may have missed. Now the parts are loaded up into the baskets, and then we could finally install this onto the spindle of the Elma Solvix SE. This is a new upgrade I put into the shop. Also have an automated one. I don't know why I didn't just buy that to begin with, but think of this as a big washing machine, right? You wash your clothes. This is basically the same thing, but just for watch parts. So there's 4 separate jars on this machine plus the drying cycle, which is at the end. But it's basically a washing machine. So we have 4 separate jars. Each one of them contains a different solution, and it's going to clean, degrease, and then at the end it's going to shine up all of these movement parts, make sure that they're nice and new looking. And then we have a fully clean, workable timepiece. Then we can reinstall all the parts, all the components, re-lubricate, recalibrate, and then you have a running watch. Now, this is really one of my favorite things to look at. I don't really know why. I just like watching the cleaning machines go. I don't know. It's fun for me. It genuinely is. Now, let's touch on why Rolex would not touch this watch. Of course, there's some aftermarket parts. Any type of aftermarket component, Rolex will not touch or service that timepiece, specifically because they have to warranty their work. Now, if it's a part that is not manufactured by them and they're servicing that watch, they don't want to warranty it. It's the same thing as using non-OEM parts on a car, and it's the same thing for your timepiece. So be very, very careful when buying a watch. Make sure everything is 100% original. Basically, just buy from horologyexchange.com. You'll never have to worry. So now let's start reassembling this watch. We have a nice clean barrel here. Clubber P125. We're just going to lightly grease the barrel walls. Now, people complain about this. Oh, you're using too much. This gets spread out, basically like buttering your toast, right? If you have a clump of butter on your toast, are you just going to leave it and let it sit there? No, you're going to spread it out over the toast, and that's exactly what I do. It's a very light film around the barrel wall, and then we can go ahead and reinstall a brand new mainspring. The other one was completely shot. And especially a watch this old, we don't want to use some of the older components. It just doesn't make sense. Now, the barrel arbor, this is something that needs to be oiled. Now, there's some HP 1300, this pink lubricant, and we just want to basically touch all the spots where this is going to make contact with the actual barrel walls. So we want to make sure that this is adequately lubricated. So we put it right there, then I put it on the arbor holder, and then we could slide this into the mainspring. Now I'm just double checking that we have latched on, and we could see that we are drawing power. Now we're going to use some more HP 1300 right on this top surface. Basically just touch the oiler to it and it'll spread itself out. Now we can reinstall the lid. And once again, you guys saw me use HP 1300 there, and that's exactly where metal on metal contact is being made. We can reinsert this top portion of the mainspring closer. Make sure the arbor is centered through this, basically pilot hole. Press down, make sure the lid is fully seated, and we're good to go. As I was cleaning all the capsules before, I do that outside of the cleaning machine. This ensures that I have 100% clean capsules. Take a look there. I'm catching the light. No remnants of previous oiling, but that's also my bottom side of this capsule. So I'm going to flip it around, and then we could reinstall it into this train of wheels bridge. So we could obviously close up the spring, and we could start reassembling this movement. First piece going back in is going to be the complete mainspring. The mainspring is in, so now we can reinstall all of the train of wheels. First thing is going to be the great wheel. This is basically the heaviest of all of the wheels, the strongest. This is what's taking the input from the mainspring and delivering the power throughout the train of wheels. Skate wheel can go in. Now, when filming, pretty much working on a watch, it's not as easy as it looks, guys. All right, so most of this stuff, I end up doing it off camera. So we got all the train wheels in there. Now we can go ahead and put down the bridge. Want to make sure that we're lining up all of the pivots so each one of them falls right through its corresponding jewel. And then we can double check and make sure that we have free spin. Now, free spin, I say this all of the time. What exactly am I referring to? Well, as you can see here, if I'm pushing on this third wheel, we have full translation of power throughout the train of wheels. Same thing as if I move the mainspring, we have power leading from there all the way up to the escape wheel. Now, this is good because once we put in the pallet fork, we know that we have a running train of wheel system here, and the power could be delivered effortlessly. Now we go ahead and we just pre-oil all of the train of wheels here. Seconds wheel, 9010, HV 1300, just enough so that we are covering the pivot, but not the top portion of it. The pallet fork goes back in. Now this is a dry run. Pallet stones have been coated with epilum, and I'm basically getting them ready to accept some oil. Now the pallet stones get 9415, and I'm double checking my oiling here. I can see that both on the entry and the exit tooth, we have nice coverage, so this is good to go. Let's throw back on the balance and check this out. We now have a running timepiece. This watch would not run before. Don't ask me why. Oh yeah, well, we needed to replace a ton of parts. So now we have a fully functioning timepiece. Let's start working topside. Let's reinsert all of these keyless works components. Now this is pretty cool. If you check out this setting lever here, this is the detent, but you guys can see how it interacts with the pallet fork, or basically the balance hack. This is what allows the balance to stop running when you change the time. So whenever you move that crown in and out, there's obviously an input system within the keyless works components, and that's basically just how you utilize all the functions on your timepiece. Now the yoke for the sliding pinion could go back in. Beautiful. We want to make sure that this is fully seated as well. Then we can go ahead and take some 9504. Now this is this blue grease, metal on metal contact. And it looks like I have a lot on this oiler. This is the Horologic's smallest oiler. And I'm just painting the face of these two components because, well, as I move this, you guys can see where contact is made. So we want to make sure that we have adequate lubrication. Now the spring for the yoke could go back in, and this is another part that can go flying across the room. Handle it with a plastic or a wooden dowel, and then just slide it back in. Setting wheels go back on, and then we could put back down the minute wheel. HV 1300 on all of these posts. We want to make sure that it's interlocked with the cannon pinion there, and beautiful. Now everything's running, everything's working. Lastly, we need to put on the jumper for the setting lever. So this is the fully mounted system. So we just want to get this seated above everything. Put one screw in. Now you want to make sure that you're not over tightening this. We want to push back on this lever and engage that with the setting lever itself. And this is what allows us to move that crown in and out. With everything cleaned up, we can once again utilize some epilum. This is the automatic module. So these are the reversing wheels. So we throw these in epilum, make sure that everything is nice and fully coated. And then we can go ahead, take some HP 1300 once again, and just put it on the lower portion of this shaft. Now we reinstall this back into the actual reversing wheel, and we want to make sure that this is fully engaging. Last thing we want to do is have a non-functioning reversing wheel when we go and rebuild this automatic module. So now we take the bottom portion of the bridge, we want to line up all the pivots with the reversing wheel. Same thing for the second one here. Everything should fall right into place. You should see all the teeth interchange. Then we go ahead and drop in this minor gear here, and then we have the driving wheel for the ratchet wheel. So now we go ahead, we put the other side of this bridge on. This is basically the cover. As you can see, the pivots have made their way through the jewels. Some more HP 1300 on both of these pivot posts, as well as the driving wheel. And then we could finally screw this all down. Now, lastly, we have to reinstall this rotor. Now, this is where you could get a major headache. Now, this little clip, I call it a Jesus clip, because once you lose it, you're going to be screaming his name for the next 3.5 hours. You need to hold this down. It needs to be pressed on to where it just sits in the middle. That's how you know it's fully locked in and this rotor is not going anywhere. With the movement fully reassembled and now running, I can really turn my attention over to this mid case and the bracelet. Now personally, this is almost too far gone. I think I could do something here, but when your lugs are the equivalents of basically a pen tip, they are so thin here, they are literally sharp as anything. The undersides of the lugs are super uneven. Somebody absolutely destroyed this case. Now, this bracelet, unfortunately, it is way too far gone. There's too many cuts, the pins are completely gone. Basically, this thing's like Old Yeller. You want to take it out back, but in this case, you just want to melt it. Unfortunately, there's just nothing I can do about this stretch. I can only refinish this watch, and it is in dire need of a professional refinish. As you guys can see, the mid case is definitely messed up, and this bracelet, whoever touched it last, they overpolished the living hell out of it. Inside of the buckle, they didn't even bother putting on a satin finish. They just pretty much high polished this entire thing. And this is what annoys me so much about everyone that wants to be a watchmaker. You know, you just bring your watch in for routine maintenance and somebody just absolutely destroys it. This is a precious metal watch. And these lugs, there's nothing you could do here. Without 900,000 shots of laser, you cannot rebuild this case. You guys are going to see, though, how I transform this thing. And honestly, I'm surprised on the outcome. But I don't just say these things to convince you guys, hey, you should send me your watch to work on it. To be entirely honest with you, I do not need the work. I genuinely don't. I tell you guys this for purely educational purposes. But for now, let's start disassembling this case some more. We're going to grab our handy dandy tube removal tool. I don't know why people polish with tubes still in the mid case. God forbid you hit this with the buff, you know, maybe it's a precious metal tube, you're going to end up destroying it. So we have the right size die here, we remove this, then we can clean this off of the watch and then actually begin the very tedious polishing process. First thing I'm doing here is I'm leveling out these lugs. I'm pre-flattening them. This is very slow RPM. It might look fast, but this is, I'm pretty sure this is like 300 RPM with an artifacts wheel. And I'm basically flattening the faces of the lugs. Now you guys saw how thin they were. They looked way too far gone, but this is where a belt sander, as well as an artifact wheel, and someone who knows what the hell they're doing could really change the outcome of a refinish. So once again, very slow speeds, very light pressure. I'm just trying to give these lugs a nice profile. We don't want to do anything too crazy here. Once again, this is a precious metal watch. Basically just reshaping it to the point where I can actually do work on it and I'm not going to over polish this thing. And check that out. We can now run a ruler or a flat edge right across the tops of these lugs. Perfect. You guys are going to see more of that in a second, but now we can start the refinishing process of the high polish. Now, this is a heavy cutting compound. Once again, very, very light pressure, about 1500 RPM here. Now I'm just making sure that I'm getting out anything that's surface level. Anything deeper than that, it needs laser fill. So you have to be very careful, especially with precious metal. As you guys can see, there's gold coming off on the buff. It's not a lot, but it's just enough for you to realistically make a difference in this profile of this watch case. So now we flip out of that buff, and now we go into the middle portion. Now this is going to be a 1500 Mazerna cut, and we're going to go ahead and start knocking down all the scratches we introduced by doing the heavy cut with the heavy cut compound. 1500 RPMs, once again, very light pressure, just removing all of the previous scratches we just put into it. And if you notice, throughout every single polish I've ever shown on video, you could see my motor is not bogging down. That once again shows how much pressure I'm actually utilizing. So now this is the final polish. This is what gives it the shine and the luster that we're all after. Now, once again, low speeds, that's going to be your biggest friend here, especially with a precious metal mid case. It will not distort it. It's not going to remove too much material. Just light pressure, and then you end up with absolutely perfect results. Now, you're going to see on the sides of these mid case, beautiful. It's like a mirror. I could see myself in it. Perfect reflection, no distortion, just the way you want it. Now, lastly, we have to do all of this satin finishing. And it's very tedious because somebody over polished the living hell out of this and they polished this bracelet 100%. All these links need to be bent over by hand and hand satin finished again. It's a nightmare. Don't over polish your watches. Don't give them to someone that doesn't know what they're doing because it just makes so much more work. It really does. Plus, you lose profile, you lose shape and overall geometry of your watch. But we taped up the center links, we did the high polish portion, and now we're finishing up with the satin work. Now the mid case, the bracelet, everything has been refinished to my standards so we could finally reinstall this dial, reinstall the hands, make sure we're flipping over at 12 o'clock, and boom. Take a look at that. I love when a second hand starts running. Now we're pretty much ready to case this thing up. We take the case out of the ultrasonic cleaner, reinstall the crystal, drop it over the movement, and just check out this transformation. Now, this is one of those restorations where I'm actually blown away by the results, okay? I know that I'm pretty good. I'm not the best, and nobody's the best at anything. Polishing is always a learning profession. Every single day I learn new technique, new compounds, new buffs, whatever the case is. But this watch came in, and I was pretty much ready to just tell this guy, hey, don't even spend the money, just melt it. Okay, but now we have a respectable timepiece. The case back, fully lasered, fully lapped, perfectly flat. The mid case, the sides of this case profile was absolutely out of whack, and especially the lugs. I mean, you guys saw them. They were razor sharp, they were pinpoints, but through flattening and just hand finishing, these are the results that we get. These lugs are now nice, thick, and even. The side of the case, no distortion whatsoever, perfect flatness, and I couldn't be happier that this is going back on someone's wrist. Thank you guys for watching. As always, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and I will catch you on the next one.